It's estimated that 1 in 10 people will develop Alzheimer's in their lifetime. It's a complex and terrifying disease that devastates individuals as well as their loved ones. Yet despite medical advancements, there is no cure. So how do we face this dire diagnosis when it comes to the people we hold dearest? Tsunami of the 21st century, the term describes the wave of people in the U.S. who are living longer than previous generations. And while this longevity is great news, there is growing concern that our healthcare system is unprepared to handle the impact of the aging population, particularly Alzheimer's disease.
Intruders! Tell them to leave!
One possible solution is virtual reality that shows people life through the patient's eyes.
You remember me, right?
Remember when I got to wear your wedding dress to my wedding?
Users experience memory loss, agitation, and hallucinations that present in late stages of the disease. So can VR teach more empathy in a world so hard to understand? We're going to try out these VR headsets to better understand what someone with Alzheimer's disease goes through. But first, I want to introduce Carrie Shaw, the founder of Embodied Labs. And thank you so much for being here. And we're excited to use these VR headsets. But what inspired you to create this experience?
When I was in my teens, and then when I was a college freshman, my mom got diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. So starting that journey with her for myself at age 19, I responded by feeling afraid and confused. I was afraid to go home. I was afraid to interact and spend time with her. And what I really wanted was the tool that Embodied Labs has been able to create today, which is a way to actually connect with the person and not just the disease, but at the same time really understand the brain and behaviors through the eyes of someone living with this. What I would have wanted was to gain more insight and connection and empathy so that I could more quickly have understood what my mom was going through and gotten on board as a part of her care team as soon as possible.
That's remarkable that you did that. And I think it is so important to develop empathy. And so we can better understand how this process works. Docs, why don't we put on the virtual reality headsets, and then Carrie, if you don't mind, walk us through
tell us what we're
scenario.
going to.
So you're seeing right now that you're in a park, and this is in the early stages of what we call the Beatrice Lab. So we put together interviews of hundreds of people living with dementia and their care teams, and what happens early on is sometimes a person feels more disconnected from their world, or like right now, she actually didn't recognize her grandson for a moment, and so she wasn't able to keep him safe as he was crawling across the table. And then now you guys are talking with your grandson, and he's excited about Easter coming up, and so the grandson is asking, are you gonna make your famous cake like you always do, which then takes you to the grocery store, whereas you guys can see you're looking at a list, and if you look at your hands, you can see you're actually embodying this person, and so you can reach out and grab those flowers over to your right, and you can put them into your grocery cart, and on the list you actually see you're confusing the word flour with baking flour, which is really common in early stages when you're losing your language processing skills. So the experience is really helping us understand not just kind of the what we all think of maybe as later stages of the disease, but really the journey that a person goes through.
I think this is a really amazing way to help us understand and not be fearful, but just kind of have more empathy for what they must be going through.
Yeah, I think if my mom taught me anything when I finally did go home and take care of her for a couple of years every day, it was about meeting her where she was at and really being in the moment with her. And I think this tool lets you do that. It lets you really think about where someone else is and how do you change your behavior to really help enable them to be empowered and live their best lives.
That is such an important piece of this puzzle.